All right, everybody. I am sorry about that. I know it's a little bit late, but the stream settings were just a little bit weird. So the audio and video stuff did not match up with what YouTube was expecting. So I'm going to just kind of move some things around here so we can get started. But again, sorry about being a little bit late. In the comments here, can you just give me a heads up if everything looks good? And I'm just double checking my second computer that's going to have, okay, there we go. The comments are on a second computer down here. So give me a shout in the comments if the audio and everything is okay here. And I'm just going to get this all fixed. Sorry about that again. All right, so it looks like, oh shoot, we have 18. So I remember last time when we did this, there was some issues with people not being able to, okay, great. Thanks, Bjorn. Okay, I'll try to, let's move the mic up a little bit more and I'll scoot over a bit. Okay, so welcome to my studio. This is the new one I moved into back in January and kind of got everything set up. I'm still working out a few things, but it's pretty good. Great. Thanks, Russell. Hey, I'm glad to see the people I know through email popping up in here. This is great. So I've been working on this software for probably 2 years. I did a demo of it at my local programming meetup group, probably 2019. Okay, let me see if I can mess with the audio real quick. I came in here last night. There's a hip hop recording studio next door, and I came in last night to get all the stuff set up, and it was so loud that I couldn't really do anything. So let me just bring up these things, and I'll try to boost these audio inputs for. Okay, we got that. That's the right microphone. Let's see. The gain looks like it's all the way up. I'll just try to talk a little bit closer. There we go. All right, so yeah, it was super loud last night, so I don't know if that's why I couldn't get everything set up here. Oh, great, okay. Yeah, so 2 years for the software. Did the color blending stuff way back then. I built like a whole color library, all sorts of stuff. And the partitioning, the partitioning stuff is similar to what's in the QuadToneProfiler-Pro software, the Pro DN. But what really makes this new stuff kind of the most flexible and most powerful is being able to use any inkset or printer combination. So like there I have a Piezo Pro so it's a dual quad, the warm and cool. Kind of down on the bottom, that's my K5 plus CMY. And then the P800 up there with just the normal K3. Then at home, I have the P700 and God, what else do I have at home? The 7800 also Piezo Pro. So I'm switching stuff around, but it means I can make these custom ink sets with any number of gray inks in any position and then add the toning. And the toning is what kind of took the most time and I'm kind of most proud of. So I just want to say thanks everybody for kind of cheering me on the last couple of years doing this. I know I've been putting stuff on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and stuff. So thanks for all that encouragement and support through all this. So what we're going to go through today is profiling the custom setup with what we're going to do first is we're going to launch this. And this is the old version. Give me 1 second here. I'll launch the new version. And then I'm going to switch screens in just a second here. So I need to. So what I'm going to do today is go through the clicking and talking is a bit, there's DN. So here's the new K3. So it has the normal license stuff. The discount's not in there yet. So that'll be coming in after the video today. So what we have here is the big white thing here. Now, if we wanted, we could maybe, we're not. There we go. Now you should be able to see my screen in just a minute here. So what we have is a big white area on the screen and some computer printer controls. Let me find a picture. Let's see. How about this proof? This is a good one. Well, let's drag that to the desktop so we can use that later. Cool. So we have our printer interface, and this is similar to the original quick curve version, but now I've also added the P900. So you have this big white area here, and in this area you could throw an image in. So let's grab that one I just put on the desktop. So there it is. Now, right now it's just using whatever the default toner thing is here. So in this case, it's the whatever the 800 to the X880 is like a 7800 if you wanted with the K3 inks. But let's go down to the P900. So you click on that, and automatically it switches the ink set. Oh, you don't see the screen. I thought I did the. I'm so sorry. I set up hotkeys for all this stuff. Yeah, it looks like. Okay, this is gonna. There we go. Sorry about that. I had hotkeys for all these set up, and okay. Sorry, everybody. I need to keep looking at both computers. Live demos. All right, so what we have here, I'm going to close this and restart it. First, before that, I will make sure this stays down in the dock. Keep in dock. And we're going to keep this one in the dock too. Okay, so we'll close this. And we can activate if you want to cancel. We'll get it. So we've got our new version. Boom. It comes with this big wide area here, and that is where you can open the image. So let's open the one from the desktop. And I'm going to choose the P700 or 900 because that's what we're going to be working with. So it automatically chooses the ink set. And because QuadToneRIP is not set up with to print with the matte or the violet yet, those options are turned off in here. So you can still print gravure positives, and that's in there. But we're going to choose gloss. And as soon as you do that, it's going to do some color toning. And it's going to throw in some default values here. You can go down to neutral, and it should have updated. I'm not sure if I'm working at the right version here. Of course, looks like it. You can do neutral. There it goes. That updated. Or let's see, warm neutral, or selenium even. So it goes real purple. And then the linearization, that's going to be similar to what we're going to do later, but I just wanted to show you the quick curve setup. It's now just called K3. So if you wanted, we could choose the P900 or 9000, and that's going to automatically jump to that, and we can choose the neutral, and that'll update as well. I know I updated all these values for the neutrality, but the idea here is if you want to do custom and make it really cool, I mean, in terms of the tone, you can really crank these things up and make it real purple. And so you can see the preview of the lab values in this little list here, in this grayscale, or you can see them in the actual image. We'll go over gray curve linearization later, but this is the quick curve setup. Real simple. We could do like the K3, so that's neutral, and go down to like matte, and that's going to update. Oh, oops. So we have the save quad. It's not actually going to save because it's not activated. But we can show the show ink graphs. So this is going to show you the quad curves, and that's just going to update whenever I touch something. So as you change these values, the lab values change and the quad curves change. Cool. So that's the K3 setup. It supports the normal K3 printers now. So everything from like the 38 or the 2800 or 2880 through the 9880, all the 900 series printers, the two kind of latest versions, except for the large format latest ones. Those ones are still not supported by QuadToneRIP yet. As soon as they are, I'm gonna have to buy a printer, I guess, and update the software for those. So hopefully Roy can figure all that stuff out and work with that. But now I want to jump into the Pro version, because this, I think, is where you'll really enjoy some of this. So let me just go back to my releases here and make sure I'm starting with just this from today. Okay. This should be this, right? Let's quit it and we'll restart that. Let's drag this down. So it opens up with the K3 setup, but since we're going to do this custom ink set, you can go up to Window and do Create Custom or Custom Curve Creation. And this is similar to the QCD, I'm sorry, the QuadToneProfiler-Pro for digital negatives. What I'll do is open up these separation files. So hopefully my hotkeys will work. If not, we're going to see some fun stuff on the OBS screen for a second as I switch things around here. There. So I'm just going to hold some stuff up to the camera. So the first thing we need to do is print an ink separation image to get this, right? And we've all kind of seen these in the QuadToneRIP curve creation tools. I've updated the target generator app so that you can go into ink separation mode. And you'll see down here, I've added Argyle CMS reference files. I've already created those, so excuse me, I'm not going to do that again. But what I'm going to do here is just list the K3 inks, the cyan, magenta, and the yellow all in one target. So just do black, light, light, and then try to do this quickly. Cyan, and we're going to update all the ink limits at the same time here. Magenta. And so if you were using a custom dedicated black and white ink set, you could throw inks into the orange and green channels if you wanted. So what I'm doing here is just listing them order from light to dark. So I'm going to use that. Ooh, come on. What's going on? Of course, I didn't go back to the screen. Sorry, everybody. This is the problem with having only one monitor in the new studio. Yeah, here we go. There we go. Sorry about that. So what I've done is just gone to the target generator app and listed the inks as we see them on the little card here. Use the same ink limit for all of them. And then if you're doing this, if you had like an M1 Mac Mini, like I do, or one of the new M1 Apple Silicon Macs, you could choose this so you can use your i1 Pro with the M1 Mac. So if you have an old version of the i1 Pro like I do, you could use it with the newest operating systems that X-Rite doesn't support for that device. So here we'll just save this as a TIFF, and in this case I am going to save the ref file. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to desktop. I have the reference files here. So actually you need to create the reference files in 3 different steps because they're measured 3 different ways. Or in actually 4 steps because we have 4 components here. But I've already done all that. So we'll just save the TIFF first and then say K3 standard. And then we'll have to edit that in Photoshop. Now to actually make the reference files, you need to go through here and unselect all these things because we have to measure each set and partition each set separately. So here, I just choose the reference file and save that. And that's going to save the reference file for you. And then you would do the same for the cyan and light cyan, and then just turn off the one that's not being used, and go through this and save the reference file for each of those. But I've already done that, and so to save time, I'm just going to jump right into assuming that we've measured all these things. We printed our ink separation target, and we've measured each of the 4 components. So in here, I have the ink sep for the K3. So you see I listed the inks. K3 inks, the cyan, magenta, and yellow as 4 different components. So when you drag this K3, oh, right, you have to open measurement data. You go to desktop, and I'm using Platine, so I'm going to choose this one. And when you open it, it's going to, you can say show inks. So you have a list, and you can click in here to see the lab values if you want. So you'll need to choose the black, the light black, and the light black. So here we're going to partition this. So yeah, we have the show inks, and so as soon as you do this, it's going to partition the inks for you and do like a basic grayscale correction off of the black ink here. So I'm going to choose lower the light value, maybe let's do like 70. Let's see how that looks. So we want to give nice even coverage for the whole piece of paper. And it looks like I am blocking up my inks at 2.74, 2.42, 2.2. It just keeps going, doesn't it? So lab value 2.2. We can actually keep this at 100 if we wanted. In this case, why don't we? Because it's going to pop down a little bit as we increase the overlap. So starting overlap for the light black channel, or the lightest black channel, is going to be 0 because it starts down here at 0. But we can change the ending overlap so that we can get more coverage of the other two inks. And then we can do the starting overlap for the, let's crank that all the way up, for the light black. So you see it kind of comes down into here and gives more of a gentle increase through that range of tones. And we'll do that for the black as well. You don't want to go too far with the black into the midtones because you will start to see the little dots. Through about 50% is like kind of where you start to see this really spread out dots. So I'm going to increase the overlap of here as well. So here's the cool part. Well, one of the cool parts at least is we have, it starts to distort if you go too high, but we want to bring more of this light black channel down into here. So we can just say edit curve. And it's going to pop up this curve editor. So if you wanted to boost the black ink back to 100, we could just do this, move that around. So this is like in the ink descriptor file if you're doing it the old way, like you have like the gamma adjustment. So it's applying a gamma to all the inks and as well as a boost. So we want to first go in and kind of clean up some of the shape of these. So I'm going to start with the lightest, so the light black. And you can just delete every one of these curve points. And that'll give you a nice smoother thing. But what we really want to do is just bring more overlap into the shadows here. So just increase those a bit. And we can even boost the ending point. And I know from experience this is going to print a little dark, so I'm just going to drop down those values a bit. This will be corrected in linearization. So the idea is to get it nice and smooth without really distorting the overall peak up here. And the linearization will just smooth all that stuff out. So then we'll hit accept, and so you see that one got smoothed out. Now I want to smooth out the top of that light black as well. So do that one as well. And fairly good, I'll just accept that and done. And now we say finish editing, and it automatically updates down here. And then you just save the quad curve. And I'm going to put it in this same folder. So I'll just do this. Since it's partitioned, let's do K3. And you see, because this is going to turn into a quad file, it has these underscores instead of spaces in the file name. Whereas with the actual TI3 files, you can have spaces. It's kind of not recommended to have spaces because of some scripts and stuff, but the images and the measurement files, you can have spaces in them. The quad files, only underscores and dashes. So you open this up in, oh, wrong one. The quad. We open that up in curve view, you can see it's exactly like we see down at this curve here. So now we need to do the cyans. So I'll go to open measurements and choose the cyan ink separation. And here, so we'll say show inks. So, because it has the previous values. It's going to update as soon as I do this. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, we're finding bugs. All right, so black, we want cyan and light cyan. There we go. Let's close this. There we go. All right, so what we want to do here is get a pretty saturated blue. And this is going to do the same thing where it partitions it. I'm going to just bring this down to about a lab value of 70. Is kind of what I always choose for the color toning inks. This one, I'm going to bring it about to 50. So you see the lab value down here turns to be about 50. We're going to blend these later. So we actually want to increase this a bit. We're going to adjust for this later. Let's do a lab value of about 40, which gives an ink limit of about 70. And then since I know we're going to blend these with the K3s later, we can increase the light cyan so that it peaks at about 50. As you can see, it also updates the sample view up here with the different curves or the different lab values for the cyan inks. These look good without editing, so we'll just go and save this. So also just do platine, cyan, light cyan. And here is where I'm going to click back up here and see the lab value is a bit like 38.7. And we're just going to include that as a note. You could jot that on a piece of paper, but I'll say like L 38, I think is what it was. Because we're going to try to match that with the magenta as close as possible. So from here, we go back up. We choose magenta. Same thing. We're going to change these to magenta and light magenta. We do that, it automatically updates. We can say show inks. It automatically updates those. And now we can't actually get to a lab value of what I say 38 because the magenta inks are a lot less dense than the cyan ink. So I'll just bring the ink limit up to about where the previous one was, and I say about 50. So we'll just want to compare those. But you can see how it automatically partitions those two. Well, I'm going to save this one. And save that. And it's going to save the quad. And then one more time, we're going to do not used. Oh, it's actually going to update as soon as we load the yellow. Yellow, I'm just going to use a value of about 50. And this one, because it's so low in terms of its overall density, there are some bumps in here. First, sorry, we got to choose the right ink. Choose yellow. So it's going to update that. Let me edit this. And we'll just go down to the yellow and click. I'll just smooth every other point here. That should fix that. And you can use the arrow keys, the tab, or sorry, shift up and down on the keyboard will fix those, or we'll jump it by like 10 points. Accept that. I want more yellow down here. We're going to do this again. So I'm going to just boost the yellow in these. That was too high. And then I can go back and delete. And that's going to re-smooth those out. Oh, no. See, when you go too far and you delete off the end, it jumps off the end like that. That'll be good. And finish editing that. Done. Now we save this one. I know I'm going a little bit fast here, but I want to try to keep... We have 5 actual steps here. So 4 steps? 4 steps. So this is just the first one. So at this point, we have to take all these quad values or curves and install these. So I'm going to leave them here. So I'm going to copy them into my quad P700 folder down here. And then in the P700 file with the install command, just run that. And you see it installs the curves. And now when we go to print tool, we can actually print with them. So in print tool, now we're going to print 21 step targets. So a note about the P700. I'm going to switch cameras here, so hopefully you can see this. Okay. So we've printed and measured these, and that's going to give us, when we print them, this glare, glossy paper and glare. That's fun, isn't it? There we go. So it's giving us the K3 inks, the cyan, magenta, and yellow. Now we need to linearize the black. That's going to be easy. It's one step. And then make the color tint linearizations for the 3 color inks. So you'll see on the P700, it does not like the paper feed and what is it? The paper skew and detection sensor is really terrible. And it doesn't like you to feed the same sheet of paper multiple times. So you have to print with an inch margin on the top. That's why you see an inch margin up here. Trim off that and stick the paper back in. So you end up with something like this, a little accordion fold type thing. I'm sorry, it's hard to see with this light and the auto adjustment with the camera. Let me see if I can. Basically, they flip up a bit. I'll try to get a picture of this on the blog post. But you tape them together. I think this, yeah, so they kind of fan out like this. Let's see if you can see that. So you just tape them together so they all end up on one sheet. That's the point. But you have to trim them off or else it'll like print halfway on the sheet of paper and just be generally terrible. So with that said, we're going to assume we've already measured these, and you can see, well, there wasn't a hip hop concert next door last night. You would have seen a video of me doing it with Argyle CMS, but pretty standard, just 21 step measurements. However you're going to get those, we can talk about it later, but we're going to get measurement files for each of these 21 step targets. So I'm going to jump back over to the picture-in-picture, and that should have fixed. So we'll first throw in a 21 step target into print tool. I'm just going to show you what this looks like without, oops. Let's see, open recent. We're just going to do a 21 step grayscale. Put it about an inch from the top and print that. Then you'll just trim that off and stick this back in here. So we'll go paper print settings. We have our Quad P700. We're going to change this to letter, and then QTR, and we have our K3. So we'll print that, and then we'll move down to the cyan, light cyan, print that. So it's going to be print, trim, change the setting, print, trim, change the setting, etc. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. The delay is not showing me that my, gosh, I'm sorry about everybody. I really need to fix this stuff up. All right. Cool. Yeah, I think we just fixed it. So in QTR, I think we should all know how to install the curves. So I moved these over to the QTR quad folder, and then went back to the profiles folder with the install command, ran that, and I just updated what was in there. So when we go to paper and print settings and change this to letter, we can go down to QTR and choose Platine K3 for the first one, and we'll just save it and print. So what we're going to say is we're going to trim this, we're going to print it and trim this off, and then keep the target on the page exactly where it is, and then go and choose the light cyan, print that, and trim it off, stick the same sheet in. So you're going to end up with that kind of accordion looking fold piece of paper. So once that's done, now we're going to use the, we can get rid of the automatic curve creation stuff. So I'll close these windows. And I'm going to go back to the desktop and get my measurement files. So we have our partition measurement files. So I did this with the Argyle. So if we just open this up in a text editor, you can see it has a similar format to a CGATS file, but they're not exactly the same. So if you try to load this like a CGATS, it would crash. But I was able to make a custom parser for the TI3 files. So if we go to here, we're going to go to first the grayscale linearization, because we're going to do the K3 first. So this is the unpartitioned K3. Oh, let's open measurement file. Oh yeah, I already have them here. That's except we need the partition ones. There we go. So you can see a couple of bumps in here. That is obviously a measurement error, these two. So when we do a smoothing here, we can kind of see where this is. And this is actually in both versions of the software, of the K3 and the Pro version here. But we can see that it's about, what is that? About 45-ish. So it's probably this one here. Let's boost that down to 34. So it's actually, let's do that again. We're going to not drag, but this one's 33. This one here, that's the high one. So let me just make that 40. So we're just adjusting some of those measurement errors. You can use a smoothing as well, so really kind of crank up the two smoothing settings. Now we need the quad file here. So we go to the Platine K3 quad. So it's in the partition one. I just moved that earlier. And then as soon as you update this, you see the curves update. Now here's a cool thing in this new version as well. And this is only in the Pro version, but like we had the edit quad in the setup, the automatic curve creation, we can do that here as well. And that just smooths out some of these points. So we'll go to light, light black. And again, I'll just click the first one and then delete tab, delete tab. And I know this should be a setting to do it automatically, and that'll be in an update. And we'll do the light black. So don't worry about this adjusting your linearized version, because this is just a preliminary linearization. We're going to add the colorings to these once you get those all kind of corrected with the color tint linearization. So accept that one, and now we finished editing, and we can save it. So it automatically exports as a .quad file. So here I will do K3 linearized, so LIN for linearized. Now we can load the, okay, so we're done with the grayscale linearization because it's a different set of formulas for grayscale and color toning inks. So we'll go back up to Window and Color Tint Linearization. And here we should be able to take the cyan, light cyan, and open that. So you see these, the original measurements are on the top and the corrected are down below. And we'll need to open the quad file for this. So it'll be this one here. I'm probably using a different one than I just created, but it's the same idea. Because I don't even remember where I put did I put the ink separation? I guess I did. Well, we can choose this one instead. Open the QTR file, partitioned, this one. Okay. Yeah, that should have updated. Okay, so as soon as you do that, it automatically corrects the spot color tone value linearization. So if you're doing gravure, you should be, this might have been an old comment, okay. So if you're doing gravure, like if you're doing 4-color gravure, you need to use the positive version of the app. And so your cyan plate would be doing this. You would do your, let's say you're doing a directed plate with your matte black ink with like the P800 or some other printer. That's not the P700. You do your magenta ink on the plate with your exposure for cyan, right? Then you measure that 21-step target with this, with however you measure, and load it into this screen. And that's going to linearize the black channel. So in this case, if it was a direct to plate, you would choose your single matte channel, right? In the quad curve. But it's using the cyan measurements and the cyan ink that's on the plate, not the ink that's printed onto the plate by your inkjet printer. So here we would save the quad file and do this for each of the color inks. So if we want to do the magenta next, we can go this magenta, and you would open the magenta quad file. This one doesn't have the smoothing ability. So if you wanted, we could save this one and go into the curve editor and smooth this out a little bit. We're not going to worry about that. So once we have all those measurements, we're going to, so we've printed this little guy here. I'm not going to switch cameras in case I forget again. But we have this here, and now we need to blend those together with the K3 inks. So to do that, we'll go back to the software. So now we're on step 3. We've corrected the color, and now we need to blend the color inks with the gray inks to create kind of a low gamut toner for each of the components that are going to be used to make up the actual profile. So we'll go back to QuadToneProfiler-Pro. And now we need to go to the curve blending. So this is pretty similar to the older version. And we can do is say load curve 1, And now we need to go down to Platine. We have these SCTV. So spot color tone value, that's what that SCTV means. And this is for linearizing the tint. And that's what we did in that previous step. So the first thing we'll do is, since we're on the load screen, we're going to choose the K3 linearized quad. It's going to show up here. That's going to be curve 1. And it's going to be, these values here are going to change the overall shape of this for the blend. And now we'll go into the spot color tone valued one folder. And we're going to choose the cyan ink. And as soon as you load it, it's just going to get a preview of 100% of the last one. And now what we can do is bring down 50 and 50. So this is going to give you a lighter print, but that's going to be corrected in linearization. So it's going to add, and there's no color preview here. It's only previewing the quad values. So you can just do 50-50. And this is going to be it's going to be slightly lower Dmax because we're only having we're blending the Dmax of the cyan ink with the blend of the black ink, which is a kind of a low, like 45 is a pretty low ink limit. So what you can do is just boost the blacks back up. And because there's less saturation in the shadow values, it's okay to decrease some of the cyan ink in these extreme shadows from like 80% to 100%. This is super dense ink, so you're not going to see any color there anyway. So you can just kind of change the shape of the curve so that, so maybe we'll add a little bit more cyan in the beginning and increase it something like that. So we'll save the blended one, and here I have a folder for blended, and so I'll just choose this one. And so example, and we'll do that. So we're going to leave the K3 alone and leave all these values here alone and just load the magenta one. So we're going to go back to the spot color tone value folder, and we'll grab the magenta, and if we just touch this, it's going to update with the correct settings here. So you kind of want to leave these alone because we set the ink limits so that it's going to produce a good similar range of tones. It's not going to be exactly perfect because the saturation and the density in terms of lab value is not going to be perfect. The lineup of those two is not going to be perfect, but they're going to be close. So if we use the same values here, as we blend 50% of the K3 plus cyan and the K3 plus magenta blended curves, those are going to equal out to be about a blue. So we'll leave all those as settings the same, save this one, and we'll do the same for the yellow. So just pretend I saved that one, and now we'll do the yellow one. Now yellow is funny because it is so low density that we actually want to increase the yellow a lot so that we can get more of a super warm curve if we want, like more of a rich sepia. So don't worry about this value being so low in terms of the black, the light black, because in linearization it's going to shift right over. So we'll save this blended one. And now with that, we have something that should end up looking like this. So it's going to be a low gamut black, cyan, magenta, and yellow. So you see yellow is pretty light through here from the blend, but when we linearize that, it's going to come out just perfect. So what we're going to do is measure these and just a single 21-step measurement file and load that all into the linearization screen now. So we're done with the spot color linearization. Now we're just doing the normal grayscale linearization. So I will jump back over to this screen. So open up the app again, and now we can go back to grayscale linearization. We have our blended quads, and now we have the measurements because we're really fast and we just measured all of them just now. So we'll open the measurements, and we can go to Platine, and we have the blended ones. So we have the blended quads, and we should have blended measurements. And of course we don't have them here. Give me 1 second, I'll find those sample files. This is funny. I should have K3 plus the others in my sample files here. Let's do, all right, here we have. So I have the, oh. Sorry about this, everybody. Do a kind. All right, give me 1 more second. This, we have 700 Latine. So we have actually the linearized ones, but we don't have the non-linearized. Huh. I'm sorry, I thought I had all this stuff together. All right, I can use the Barita one instead. So yeah, I only have the K3 linearized. This is, this is what you get for trying to do a live demo. Sample files, here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, they're right here. So we have the K3 plus cyan, and so we'll do the linearized. We've already done linearized on the K3 ones. So we have K3 cyan. It's just in the sample file there. So you can see how light that got with the blend. So we do the smoothing. If we wanted, we can come in and adjust the lab values. But this is smooth. This is fine. So the quad file, we'll go back to the blended ones. We'll choose the cyan. And so now we're going to have a linearized cyan curve that we're going to print to get one more target. So we're going to go to Latine. We have linearized, and we're going to call this, because this is going to be the measurement that this actually is going to come from. So we save that. Done. Now we're going to open measurements for the magenta and do the same thing. And now we need to open the quad for the magenta. Sorry, we need to open the blended quad that the measurements came from, right? There we go. So that's been linearized, right? As soon as we update, that's linearized. Oh, here's something to watch out for, and something I'm still trying to work out is at the very end, you can get this little distortion in the black channel, especially in down here too. I'm not sure where that's coming from. So you can go to Edit Quad and just go to the K curve, and that you can just move these around slightly. And this is not going to mess with your linearization, so don't worry about that. And that fixes it. So you could do the same for the light black. Oops, sorry, the light black, not light black. Except that one, and that fixes that. Don't worry about this thing at the very end. That's the absolute last value. Is not going to show up. So you finish editing, and when you do that, it smooths that out for you. So now we'll save the linearized magenta one. So there's magenta with the LIN for linearized. And do the same for the yellow. So when we open the yellow, you'll see that it is pretty light. Yeah, look how light. So the dots are the original measured value. The red line is the smooth measure values, and the green line is the target. So we're trying to hit a perfectly linear. Oh, sorry. Why is my do not disturb? Do not disturb. Thank you. So now we need to load the quad values for that. So we'll go to blended. and we want the yellow one. So K3-Y for yellow. And now there, as soon as we update that, so you see how it brought all the inks back over to the left to darken all this stuff here. And now we can just do that edit quad again to fix those distortions in the end here. So just bring that up and smooth that out. Accept that. And you'll see I'm not worried about too much of this because we're going to use in the actual blending fairly low amounts in here. This is just to make it look good, and not to, you know, if we did increase a lot of it in the blending later, that it's not going to give you a distortion at the very end. This is just to kind of make it look nice more than anything else. So accept that, and it'll finish editing. That updates your linearized quad values, and then we'll save this one. So now we're getting to the coolest part of all this. I know it's a lot of setup, but this is, if you're doing these kind of advanced things here with the dedicated black and white ink sets, you'll need to go through all this because, you know, I don't know what your dilution, if say you're doing the ebony stuff from Paul Rourke, I don't know your dilutions. If your dilutions are off a little bit, my starter curves might not work for you. So let's say you wanted to use orange ink for your toner. You could do a single orange channel, add that to your gray inks. And so you still have to go through these 4 steps, but it's not 4 times 4 components. It's 4 times 2 components because you have a black and an orange. So this is a linearized yellow before I get too far ahead of myself. Linearized yellow. So now we have 4 linearized components. The black plus cyan, black plus magenta, black plus yellow. Now we need to print those out. So these lab values I just created, the linearized values here. I'm sorry, we're on the desktop. Platine, linearized. Am I losing my mind here? There's the quads. And then we have the quad up from the part. You have the linearized quad here. I know this is, the file management is going to be the thing to kind of work out. And I'm going to kind of give you a sample document, like measurement file format, that will hopefully keep these things pretty straight. Because you see, if I'm like talking and trying to do this, if I click too fast, I can lose where these things are going. So I'm going to drag all these linearized ones to the quad folder down here and then reinstall that. So now we have the linearized components. We're going to print with those linearized components and make one final set of measurements. So we have the print of each of the 4 components right here. We've already done the linearization. So if you were to pop into like the normal QTR blending, you don't need to actually measure again. You could to confirm your linearity, but for this system, because of the new file format we're going to create here, you want linearized versions of the quad curves, obviously, for the 4 components and the measurements from those linearized ones. So with that, we're going to get to kind of what we're all kind of gunning for here, is this custom profile manager. And this is the new hotness of this app. So when you open that, you have this kind of blank screen. If you're doing custom setups, so we're at the stage where we have the linearized quad values and the linearized measurements, you're going to go to Custom Profile Manager, and we're going to create a new profile. And profile, in the sense of this is a QuadToneProfiler application, it's going to have a .qtp, so QuadToneProfiler file. So we're going to add a component. First component we're going to add is black. So we're actually, you have to actually need to title it here as black. If you do it as K, it's not going to show up in the list alphabetically. Like luckily, black comes before cyan alphabetically. So we're going to add the measurements. So we're going to get those linearized measurements. And now, so this is what this guy here looks like. We also need the quad file from those measurements. So we'll go to the quad folder here. There's our linearized cyan. Cool. Oh, this is not the one we just saved. We're going to pretend this is the one we just saved. We can delete all these notes. We don't need those in here. So when we say finish editing, it's going to add that back. Oh, sorry, this is a good way to show you this too. We did the black component, but it was a cyan curve and measurements. Double click that and we can just rename this cyan. Finish editing. Hey, it's not doing that for whatever reason. So we'll go back to Platine. We'll grab our linearized K3 linearized here. Those are our linearized measurements. That's better. We're going to grab our linearized quad. That's better. And now we can say finish editing. That's going to update this here. Now we're going to add the cyan component. So here I can say cyan. Now we're going to add the actual cyan measurements. So we have our linearized one, linearized cyan. Same thing, add the quad file. Let's use this one. Now we can delete all this garbage. It's only in there because if you printed the quad value or the quad file, that's the actual notes from the quad file. So now we need to add the magenta. So I'm just going to keep adding components for as many components as I have. Add measurements, we're going to choose the linearized magenta measurements. And so also if you click in here, it shows you those. We need the quad file for these. So let's go back to this here and K3 plus M linearized. Delete the notes. That's finished editing, and now we need the cyan. I'm sorry, the yellow. So wouldn't it be a pain if you had to do this for every single time you wanted to blend a thing together? It is a pain to get to the first one. From there, you can just linearize. This is what's so great about this. You just have your custom partition and linearization. You re-linearize for whatever new paper you want to use. So you have a linearized quad and the linearized components. Then you just bring them into this one here. So I just showed you the long way to get from 0 to this point. But in the future, you'll have your linearized values and your linearized quads. You can just create components and then blend them from there. So we'll find the yellow. We're finding the linearized yellow. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here because I'm so excited. And find the it's in the quad folders. The linearized yellow curve. Done. Okay. Now we're going to say finish editing. So we have our 4 components, and now we can save the profile. And so this one I can say P700, and notice what I'm doing. I'm hitting a space. You can't do that with quad values, but you can with these .qtp files. So this is going to be Canson Platine. What do we need? That's it. I guess we could say it's a K3, but we know it's a P700. It's only K3. It's the paper and the gloss. I guess we could say it's glossy, but it's a P700. It's always going to be glossy for now. Platine is obviously glossy, so you can hit save. Now you can go to the custom component blending, and you can open this QTP file. And there it is. So you can see it has this added .qtp extension. And now we say open. So nothing to see here yet, but as soon as you move in the cyans or the magentas, they automatically adjust the values of the colors in the lab values. It balances the number of components you have. So let's say you crank up the cyan, it's going to lower the black in that. If you actually want to see the quad curves, you can open this, and I'll just move some things so you can see. And this is going to update when you move these values around. So if you have all these things grayed out and you try to move this, it's trying to balance something with 0, which is not going to work. So you just need to move these sliders. That's to keep yellow from like popping up when you don't want it. But now that these are in here, if you drag your black back up, you can kind of see it's adjusting in proportion to what's here. You can also just load an image. So here we're going to grab that Same one on the desktop. And you can simulate the Dmax. So see how it kind of gives that lower Dmax look here? You can turn that off and it's going to just expand the lab values, the L values to the whole scale and just take the color. So you can, if you make it really, oops, that's really cyan. Let's do that. You know, if you wanted to do something like that, you could. And that's going to be, I tested this, I think you saw it yesterday on the Facebooks. This is so dead neutral when you do this. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it surprised me, but I was happily surprised because I was working with a paper that had some optical brighteners and that was throwing off a little bit. Like, well, I mean a little bit. I mean like 0.5 in terms of the A or B values. The platine I used is so neutral that ended up being like dead neutral. Is amazing. I don't particularly like dead neutral prints, so why don't I make that's gonna be too magenta, but just increase the black. So this is going to give us a warmer print. And maybe take that cyan all the way down. So we can fine tune, if you wanted a really carbon looking print, you can increase the yellow. And just balance these out for whatever you kind of want here. So at this point, now we have our quad curve. So we could create this set of settings for the quad curve for your whatever custom paper. And so you can actually preview the blend here. So you don't have to go into, you know, the old way of doing this stuff is going into print tool, right? And we're going to just open that same file. Stop. Okay. So we have our measurements and that. We go to paper print settings. Close those. We have our linearized versions here, right? So we have our K3 linearized, and we have curve 2 is what? Cyan and magenta, and then we get to guess what the color is going to be by doing this. Now with the new app, you can see what that color is going to be and see it on your actual image all in real time. And so this is great for K3 stuff, but what's really great is when you do, like, let's say we have like a Piezo Pro printer, you can take whatever paper you want and get the linearized measurements and the linearized quad and do that blending. So let me see if I have this. I'll just show you this because we'll be about an hour. I know we've got 28 people looks like here still. Thanks for sticking with me. I know this is a lot. This is like super advanced stuff. But this is why it's called the Pro app. But let's see, we have this component. Let's just close this window and make a new one. So we go to Custom Profile Manager. Let's just say we wanted to open one here. You could open the same one in this if you wanted, just by dragging it in, but we're going to make a new one. So we're going to add a component, and bear with me as I kind of search around my measurement files here. Let's find, is it going to be, I know it's going to be a Hanemule. It's going to be a Fine Art Baryta, and we have a Piezo Pro. Look at this. So these are the mixes. That's unfortunate. Let me try to find, oh look, we have, that's something else. Let me find another paper. I know I have it in here. Do I have one in here? Talk about measurement files. Fine Art Baryta. Yeah, see, there's that. Oh no, let's do, I think I have Juniper. I don't. I have a lot of stuff, but I don't have. Let's see, do I have a, oh, look, I have this one here. Cool. All right. we're going to try to find the cool. It only works with 21 step targets. That's why I'm looking for a. Okay, so this one first, I'm going to drag this into data tool. Data tool's been really weird with. This is I really wanted to show a Piezo Pro, but I think hopefully you can get the idea that if you have a 21 step measurements from the Piezo Pro, or I guess that'd be the only one that's kind of available that has multiple components that's kind of out in the world. Let's see. I know I have an addition etching maybe. Yeah, I have so many that. Oh yeah, check this out. So I have. No, these are 51. All right. Well, trust me, that Piezo Pro works really well. I just don't have any measurements on hand that that have that together. So I think that's about it with this stuff here, with this component manager. I'm going to make more videos now that I'm in the space, going through the actual measurements with the Argyle, because it's a little complicated. It's actually not as complicated as I thought, as complicated all of this was. But in terms of command line stuff, I know I was scared of it to begin with. So I have some instructions written out for that already, and some reference files and the targets already built. So that's going to be included in the download for the app. Why don't I spend another few minutes? I'm looking at the screen here. If anyone has questions, to pop in the chat, we can do that. And cancel here. What I'd like to do is go back to the profiling app and go through. So there's a few other things in here. So we touched on the gray curve linearization, and the color tint linearization, but here's the quad editor. So here we can choose a quad file to edit. So there's a quad file, and let's say it had bumps for some reason. We could choose that curve there, and smooth out the bumps. Or if it's like the black, we really want to boost the blacks, you can go in here and drag these things up like this. So don't worry about it not being all the way at the end. You accept that, and it jumps up for you. So there's the curve editor. It's pretty simple. We have the levels, and this is what Clay Harmon uses for his direct-to-plate and the two exposure system for gravure. But let's say we had. So Frankie's asking me, do I find it limiting to be restricted to 21 steps for blending? No, because it's actually interpolating it's interpolating the blend to 256 steps. When you're done, kind of at the end of the process, there's going to be more noise as you have more steps. And so you're going to be blending all these little noisy values. Like I said, I've been doing this with these components kind of internally for 2 years, and absolutely no problem having a 21 steps only. For if you wanted to do a final linearization, I think actually all these things I just tested just to show as visuals with 21 step. A lot of the time for the grayscale linearization, I will do 128 steps, and even 256, but I think that's just a waste of paper for the most part. 128, because everything gets interpolated, it gets smoothed first. So you're already not using, you're averaging 256 steps into a smaller number of steps, and then reinterpolating them back to 256 steps. So if you have a lot of noise in your measurements, you're going to have to first smooth that out, which can create some kind of errors that way. It's a lot easier if you have 21 steps. You can see if the measurement error is in there and just adjust it down and then re-smooth kind of manually. That's still going to get interpolated to 256 steps for the actual lookup for the linearization. So if you want to do 51 for the linearization, like that's great. 128, like even better. After that, it's going to be diminishing returns. and a waste of ink and paper. You know, that's gonna be up to you. I'm not gonna move my camera around, but I've got 70-inch prints that are done with 21-step linearizations, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay, so hope that answers your question. I'm gonna jump back to the levels for a moment here. So if we have, let's say we're printing with something and it's blocking up the paper, like it's a, let's say it's like a Piezo paper, and it can't handle the high ink load. You can go into here and just adjust down the levels a bit. This is mostly useful for gravure. I kind of rarely use this for actual inkjet prints, but that's the idea. It's just like a level slider. It takes whatever this output value is and it kind of puts it someplace else. You know, it's going to pigment, going to put 91, stretch that to 100. Just so that's just kind of normalized through the whole scale rather than mapping right to 100. It's just a simple way of doing stuff that's real specific for gravure. Same way with the whites, and then you can zero the first one so you don't print with, let's say, like 15% light black over your entire plate, when you only want it in like step 1 of 256. You don't want it step 0 of 256. You want it step 1 or 55, I guess, in that case. Okay, so we'll close that. And then what else is in here? The remapping. This is cool. So if you have a busted up printer, let's say let's find a good one that's going to be busted up. Where would I find it? Because this is only measurements. I'm just going to poke around and see what I find here. Okay, well, this might be I don't have any. So this is usually not my printer. I have a Mac Pro that actually uses a print server that's turned off because it's too hot in here. Let's just find. Oh, this is a good one. If the curves are actually in here, they're not. Too bad. Yeah, these are all measurements, not curves. Let's go back to here and we'll do this. Let's say that you're in a P9000 and your blacks got all funky. Let's say 9900 and your black ink got funky. You can go here. Your new one's going to be, let's call it yellow. And your new yellow is going to be black. So you've just swapped those. That's all this does. I luckily don't have any busted up printers at the moment, so I'm not using this, but I know people who have like piezography printers, or like a 9900 that has a couple busted channels. They put piezography inks in there and they need to remap them. This is a kind of visual, easy way to do it. So you have your original one and you're going to throw your original into like something that has no inks in it usually to turn it off, and then take the one that you want it to be, and so in this case yellow, you're going to want the yellow to print with the original black curve, so it just swaps the two. You can actually, this is kind of cool, if you wanted, you can say magenta, copy the cyan. So hard to see here. Let's copy. So cyan is copying, yellow is now copying cyan. We can do black is black, and let's do magenta, copy the black. Now we have magenta sitting on top of the black. I don't know how, why would you, I guess if you're doing Paul Rourke's setup, if you're only using matte black, and you wanted to print with 2 matte blacks on a uncoated piece of paper, you could do something like this, where you just double up the matte black on top of each other. It's kind of like using copy curve equals in the ink descriptor file, but you're doing this with an interface here. That's kind of cool. What else is in here? That's kind of it. I really tried to simplify some of these things so that you don't have to jump around as much. Like in the gray curve linearization, you have the quad editor built in there. So let's try and see one more thing here. Let's do a K3 lin. So I see I opened a TI3 file. there's the linearized version. So yeah, like maybe that's a measurement error. That's what, 10, 20, 30, 40. Let's say that's going to be 61. And that just moves that down. 57. You know, maybe that's a measurement error. I don't know. But you can edit them in there like that. So let's open a quad file and let's see here. This is going to be an example of some of the editing stuff you can do in here. So you have the manual curve editor. I didn't really go over that, but this is where you can adjust the output to a different scale. So let's say this printed too dark. All your linearized stuff is printing too dark. You can take this editor here and lighten everything up. And see how that kind of adjusts these things here in real time. This is most useful for matte measurements. So, okay, well, let's open a new measurement file that's with a matte paper to show you how you would really use that. So let's find addition etching. I love addition etching. Here we go. Oh, I don't want a 3. I want nothing in there. Here we go. So we have 21 step. So this is like a .out file from QTR. Oh, I've got a bug. Oh no. Yeah, cool. Good to know. That's not working for some reason. I need to sort that out. But the CGATS works just fine. Let's try to. So Command 2 will get the linearization screen. Say, yeah, so Frankie, that's what we're doing now, is trying to find something that's not linear, right? So I'm just trying to find some matte profiles to hopefully show you this. Addition etching. Okay, there's, oh right, these are older ones that don't have the CGATs in them. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'm not sure why the dot outs are not working. That's funny. Here, what we can do, we can open this in Data Tool. Yeah, Data Tool is really funky now too. All right, well, cancel. Let's see what's in the piezo tone. It's been a while since I've used one of those. Yeah, see, they're not CGATs is why you can't open those, because it has that CGATs. The new version has a CGATs tag in them. I really want a 21 by 1. Here we go. This is exactly what I want. There we go. All right, so it's been linearized. It's a little dark through the midtones and light through the highlights. I'm sorry, through the shadows. So we'll just smooth that out a bit. We're going to grab just any old quad file here, just as an example. Do the K3 because it's not linearized, right? So we'll move this. Boom, now it's linearized. So now what we want to do is, if we preview the inks, kind of see how this is like not exactly 95% right here. I mean, it is. It's exactly 95% in terms of the scale, but it looks like we're going to have really open shadows because the overall Dmax of the paper is pretty low. So what we can do is open up this manual curve, and instead of lightening it like we did before, we can darken those shadows. As you see, they update in real time down here, and we'll have to go back and fix these these errors in the quad file after this. That's just going to update a little bit as we do this. So we're going to darken a little bit through the midtones so that, due to like the lower Dmax of matte papers, or the perceived Dmax, I should say, we can get what should match more closely to the screen. If we wanted, we could preview the image here as well, so we can open the same image. Desktop, this guy. And so you see how like that's the perceived Dmax with the lab value set at 18 here, or whatever this is, 1.59. You can uncheck the Dmax. So then this is going to be the corrected version. Preview's off. So we can kind of see that it gets pretty close to the original. And then you can do simulate Dmax. It's going to give you that how your shadows are compressing through there and preview the color for you. So this is how I'd use that. And I do this for all my matte papers now. I've been doing this way for probably 5 years, so that we don't have perfectly linear shadows when using matte papers because they end up looking too light. So with that all done, I would then edit the quad just to get rid of that little bump. And just do that. I'll do it down here too. It's gonna be light black. Done. That's all I do. And then finish editing. Oh yeah, let's say go back to the quad editor. Let's say you did want to boost, for some reason you wanted to boost the blacks here. You just do it like this. So it's going to be the same boost formula that's in the QuadToneRIP ink descriptor file. And same with the gamma. If you wanted just to lighten everything rather than going through the manual curve editor, you could just lighten everything this way, or darken it by dragging the other direction. I'm not sure why you would do this, but you can. So like that's kind of the point. Is like I don't personally do some of this stuff sometimes, but I know some people need to for whatever reasons they have, and the tools are here for it. So we've been going just about 80 minutes. Any more questions in the thing here? Oh, so what I want to do cover here, let me just close out and we'll talk face to face a little more. And talk about how to get this stuff and what you're doing with the updates. Okay, just a second while I F1. All right, so K3 is a brand new version. It's for people who don't want to go through all of this custom curve creation stuff. So that's going to be a lower price from what it was originally. It's going to be the same price as the QCDN app. So $75 for new purchases. There's this, the pre-order stuff is going to be going on for about a week. So if you want it at the $39, the $40 discount price, you might want to jump on it in the first week. If you have the original Quick Curve version, I'm going to put an email out with an offer code to upgrade to the later version. You have a link for the download and a link for the purchase. Two separate things because of the application activation licensing system I'm using. So if you have the old version, you'll get an email with an offer code for the discounted upgrade price for the Quick Curve to go to Pro, or if you just want to upgrade to the version 2 with the new color blending model. We didn't talk about digital negatives, and this is not really about digital negatives, but what I wanted to let's see if I can find it real quick. Do I have it? You're going to see, oh, you're not going to see because it's turned off. Let me see if I have the final build here for it. Releases. So Quick Curve DN version 2. No, that's still being notarized, so I don't have that yet. I'm still waiting to hear from Apple with this special staple for the QCDN version 2. Version 1's going away. Can't get it anymore. Windows is also going away. The stuff on the Mac is so cool that I just can't do with Windows, and I don't want to have this like two versions out in the world. So version 2 is the upgrade price. Version 1 still works great. The reason to upgrade to version 2 is if you're using like if you're going through Bill Schwab's tutorials, he has you using the scanner, typing the values into a text file, and then loading those into the app. The new version of the app, you can just open up the linearization screen and type in the lab values directly into the linearization screen without needing to open a measurement file or saving a text file out. The new version has the color previews and the new editor, the manual curve editor. Rather than dealing with sliders, you can actually do it like a Photoshop curve, like a normal interface there. Pro version, this is kind of a small update, the Pro version, but it's going to have the Pro version is a free update if you have that. So no, it's going to be an email with a new download link because the auto update stuff got a little bit screwy. So I'm resetting all that stuff and making sure the auto update feeds are in place where they need to be. Free upgrade if you have the Pro version. So don't worry about that. That'll come in an email. And what am I missing? I think that's all of it, right? Oh, the target generator we used in the beginning, that's a free download from my site, and that'll be in the documentation for the apps. So if you already bought the pre-sale, like, thank you so much. I've actually had more sales than I kind of would have expected from a pre-order with no information. So thank you everybody who signed up and purchased that. So everybody who purchased the as soon as Apple notarizes the QCDN version 2, you'll get a download link and an activation code for that by email. And I have your order list, and that's ready to go. The purchasers of the new QuadToneProfiler-Pro and the new K3 version, those are, I just got the notarization 10 minutes before we started. So the rest of my afternoon is sending out your activation codes along with the download link. In there, you're going to have the sample files and the instructions. So the video here will kind of serve as, a tutorial until I can get it edited into and probably redone in a few places with some more specific information. Instead of blowing through these things with, not actually doing the measurements, actually going through the measurement process, and kind of explaining more what's going on with each step. So that will be coming out in probably the second week of June. But we're going out of town next week until like summer school starts for their toddler. So my summer is going to be pretty productive and lots of videos and lots of really good instructions. I know the Pro DN version, there could be a few better instructions. So thanks for bearing with me with that. If there's any more questions, feel free to email me, or as the video is kind of processed and goes public, just like put them in the comment section, and I'll answer them in there so more people can see it, as well as email if needed. Again, thanks so much. Have a great, if you're in the United States, I know it's a long weekend. Stay safe, have fun, eat some veggie burgers if that's your deal. Hot dogs if not. If drinking beer is your thing also, cheers. If not, then I have a fizzy weekend cheers here as well. So thanks everybody. You can see I'm kind of losing steam here. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate all the kind of love over the last couple of years, as well. The birthday thing, that was fun. But yeah, thanks so much, and hopefully talk to you soon and with some more videos, because I got a studio. I'd like to actually give you all a studio tour. So thanks, Phil. All right, we'll see you probably next week. Thanks so much.